Hello and welcome to The Critique. Today we are jumping straight into a really dense and high-stakes submission. It's a series of scripts for video commentary on unredacted government files.
Right. We're talking alleged code words, political fallout with, some huge names.
Exactly. The material aims to blow the lid off a major cover-up. So let's get right to work.
Let's do it.
Okay, so reading through this, the first thing that hits you is the sheer intensity of this code word analysis, right? The author is trying to convince us that jerky is a mask for something horrific. But looking at that segment, I feel like the script just shoots itself in the foot right out of the gate. It opens by basically shouting, "Jerky means human meat," and then tries to prove it.
It's the classic conclusion first problem. I've read that section a few times now, and the issue isn't really the evidence itself. The evidence is actually pretty bizarre.
It's very compelling, yeah.
It is, but it's the sequencing. By leading with the claim that jerky equals cannibalism and, mentioning dissolving bodies in the first paragraph, you're asking for a massive leap of faith from the audience.
Before you've earned it.
Before you've earned any of it.
But, okay, let me play devil's advocate for a sec. Isn't that the hook? We live in an age of scrolling. If you don't grab someone with the most shocking claim you have, don't you lose them?
I get that.
Cannibalism sounds viral. Let's look at a weird shipping receipt. Just sounds boring.
It sounds viral, sure, but it also triggers the conspiracy theory filter in a neutral listener's brain immediately. If you're preaching to the choir, people who are already on board, then yeah, lead with the shock.
Fine.
But this script seems like it wants to convert skeptics. And if you scream human meat at a skeptic in sentence 1, they just check out. They categorize you as unhinged and the video's over. The smarter play is to weaponize curiosity, not just shock.
So you're saying treat it more like a detective story. Walk them to the body. Don't just show them a picture of the murder.
Exactly. Make the listener the detective. Let's look at the raw materials here, because they are genuinely weird. We just need to rearrange them to build a mystery.
Okay, let's workshop this then. If we're not starting with the cannibalism accusation, where do we start? The script has emails about labs, freezers, a restaurant, sulfuric acid. What's the entry point?
The strongest hook is the mundane anomaly, the thing that's just odd. I'd start with the lab analysis email. The text quotes a sender asking, "Who sends beef jerky to a lab for analysis?"
Right. I need 6 to 8 ounces to send to the lab.
That is an objective, undeniable fact from the source documents. It's not a theory yet. It's just weird.
That's true. It forces the audience to ask the question, why would anyone send a stick of jerky to a laboratory? It's a low-stakes question, but it demands an answer.
And that creates a curiosity gap. You've hooked them. Okay, so step 2. Logistics. The script mentions an email about a downstairs freezer and an insulated bag for this jerky.
Right.
In the current draft, the author asks, "Why would you freeze jerky?" Which is a fantastic question, but you place it after the lab detail. Now the listener's thinking, okay, it's going to a lab, and it has to be kept frozen, but normal jerky is shelf-stable, so this isn't normal meat.
I see what you're doing. You're making the listener realize something is wrong without telling them what is wrong yet. You're letting their imagination do the work, which is always scary.
Precisely. You're guiding them down the path. Now, step 3. This is where you bring in the cannibal and cooks connection.
Okay.
In the current draft, it's treated like a throwaway punchline. But if you frame it as a dark coincidence after establishing the lab and the freezer, it hits like a truck.
That feels like the third strike. At this point, even a total skeptic has to admit that's a hell of a coincidence. Lab, freezer, cannibal restaurant.
And that is when you deliver the kill shot. Step 4. Only now do you introduce the receipt for sulfuric acid and the line about dissolving bodies.
Ah, I see.
If you put that at the start, it's just melodrama. If you put it at the end of this chain of logic, it becomes the terrifying solution to the mystery you just built.
It becomes the inevitable conclusion, not a wild accusation. That structure is just so much stronger. It respects the audience.
It really does. But, and this is a big but, even the best logical structure is going to fail if the person delivering it sounds like an internet troll. And that, I think, brings us to the second major issue here, the tone.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about this. The script is aggressive. And look, the subject matter is alleged crimes against children. Anger is the natural response. I don't think we should tell the author to tone down the feeling.
No, the anger is justified.
But the vocabulary, it's rough.
It's beyond rough. It is self-sabotaging. I'm looking at the text here, and it's just peppered with terms like retards, libtards, and these explicit repeated calls for death. I want them dead, put their head on a spike.
It absolutely reads like 4chan rage bait.
And that is the problem. It categorizes the content instantly. If your goal is to get clicks from people who already agree with you and love that vibe, fine, keep it.
But that's not what this is.
No, this script cites congressional findings. It talks about serious DOJ redactions. If you wrap a serious investigation in slurs and this hyper-aggressive rhetoric, you just give the opposition an easy out. They don't have to debate your facts.
They just point at the language.
Screaming in the desert, or do you want to be a prosecutor convincing a jury? A prosecutor can be angry. In fact, righteous indignation is incredibly powerful.
But a prosecutor doesn't call the defendant a libtard.
No, they call them a complicit elite shielding themselves from scrutiny.
That's a great distinction. Let's look at a specific example in the script. There's that section on Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie.
Right, and this is the single biggest missed opportunity in the entire draft. You have Ro Khanna, a progressive Democrat, and Thomas Massie, a libertarian Republican.
Two ends of the spectrum.
And the script notes that both of them viewed these files, and both of them came out looking visibly disturbed. But the current draft spends half that time just mocking Khanna, right? Calling him names.
Yeah, implying he's useless.
Why? Why would you attack the guy who was validating your entire point? The strongest argument you have is that this horror is bipartisan.
Crosses party lines.
You should be shouting that from the rooftops. This is so bad that even a progressive Democrat and a hardline Republican agree on it. That makes the viewer think, wow, if he's freaked out, this has to be real.
Okay, and what about the I want them dead chants?
Change it to a demand for justice. Instead of I want his head on a spike, try something like the severity of these crimes demands the ultimate penalty under the law. It carries the same weight. You're asking for the same outcome, arguably.
But one sounds like a vendetta.
And the other sounds like the rule of law. It elevates the conversation.
Okay, so we've fixed the logic, we've cleaned up the vocabulary. Now we need to talk about the evidence itself. Because right now, the script feels a bit flat. And I don't mean boring, I mean flattened. Every piece of evidence is treated with the exact same weight.
This is the kitchen sink problem. You're throwing everything at the wall. The script jumps from a DOJ subpoena with Massie and Khanna, which is hard, documented news,
Right.
directly into theories about Jeffrey Epstein playing Fortnite in 2025 or the Island Temple being a replica of a mosque.
I noticed that. It's that tonal whiplash again. You're reading a legal document one second, and the next you're looking at a screenshot of a video game username called Little's Jeff.
And think about what that does to a neutral listener. If you put the Fortnite theory, which, let's be honest, is pretty speculative,
Very speculative.
right next to the DOJ redaction scandal, you are effectively telling the audience that these two things are equal. You are dragging the hard evidence down to the level of the softest, weirdest speculation.
It just dilutes the impact of the real news. So what's the fix? Do we just cut the Fortnite stuff?
You don't have to cut it if you think it's part of the wider picture, but you have to segregate it. We need tiers of evidence. You have to structure the script so the listener knows what is fact and what is theory.
Okay, paint that picture for me. How would you organize these tiers?
I'd break it into 3 distinct blocks. Tier 1 is the smoking gun. This is your first block, and you dedicate it solely to the Massie and Khanna interview. You highlight the 6 men, the 302 forms, the fact that the FBI redacted files before giving them to the DOJ.
This is unimpeachable stuff. Congressional record.
You plant your flag right there. That's the bedrock.
Got it. What's tier 2?
Tier 2 is the patterns. This is where you move that inductive code words discussion we just talked about. The jerky, the pizza, the pasta. You frame this not as hard legal proof, but as historical context or decoding the language. You can reference Podesta here. You're saying, look at this pattern.
It's persuasive, but it's different from a DOJ doc.
Exactly. And then tier 3 is the weird stuff.
The high strangeness.
The high strangeness or anomalies. This is where you put the mosque dimensions, the Fortnite account. But, and this is crucial, you have to label it. You literally say, now, those are the facts, but there are some anomalies that are too strange to ignore.
So you're flagging it for the audience.
You're protecting the credibility of Tier 1. You prevent the listener from throwing out the baby, the DOJ corruption, with the bathwater, which is the video game theory.
That makes sense. It allows the listener to say, okay, I don't buy the video game thing, but that DOJ stuff is serious.
Right now, they're likely to just reject it all.
Exactly. It's portfolio management. You don't mix your junk bonds with your blue chip stocks.
All right, let's move to the final piece. We've handled the evidence, But what about the story? The script clearly wants to make a point about the political narrative, specifically about Donald Trump. This is a narrative arc issue. The author clearly believes Trump has been vindicated. But reading the script, that argument is just scattered all over the place. It's fragmented.
Yeah, it felt like breadcrumb. We get the 2017 executive order in the first minute, then 5 minutes later, a throwaway line about a comment to the FBI, then way at the end, the 2008 Florida arrest. It's hard to see the big picture.
Exactly. And by scattering these points, you miss the opportunity to show a clear cause and effect timeline. If you want to argue there was a secret war going on, you need to show the escalation. You can't just drop random anecdotes.
So we need to consolidate it.
We need a chronological consolidation. I would suggest creating a dedicated maybe 2-minute block in the script that is strictly timeline driven. Stop jumping around.
Walk us through that block. What would it look like?
You start in 2005. Trump bans Epstein from Mar-a-Lago. Boom. You move to 2006. Trump actively helps the Palm Beach police. This is where you quote the Maxwell is evil comment.
Okay.
Jump to 2017. The executive order on human trafficking and seizing assets. Boom. Finally, 2019 and 2020. The DOJ under Trump arrests Epstein and Maxwell.
Putting it in that order, it changes the vibe completely. It stops looking like random events and starts looking like a campaign.
And here is the kicker to make it really strong. You have that timeline of action. Now you need the reaction. Immediately follow that timeline with the panic section from the source text. Prince William, the Norwegian ambassador, Larry Summers, the Paul Weiss chairman, all these powerful people resigning or panicking around the same time.
I see. So you juxtapose the action, the arrests, the orders, with the reaction, which is the resignation.
Yes, it creates a narrative engine. Action, reaction, cause, effect. This contrast creates a much stronger argument for vindication than just sprinkling these facts in between comments about beef jerky and torture videos ever could. It turns data points into a cohesive story.
It's the difference between a pile of bricks and a wall. Okay, we have covered a massive amount of ground here. Let's try to summarize this for the listener so they have a clear plan.
Sure.
4 main pillars of improvement.
First up,
Inductive logic.
right. Stop leading with the verdict. Don't start with it's cannibalism. Start with the weird details, the lab, the freezer, and build the mystery up to the conclusion. Hook the skeptic's curiosity.
Second, tone and reach.
Stop preaching to the choir. If you want to expose a crime like this, you need the widest audience possible. Cut the slurs, cut the internet rage language, channel that anger into righteous, precise indignation, and use the bipartisan angle. Use Kana and Massey as allies.
Third, evidence tiers.
Don't dilute your hard news. Create clear sections. Smoking gun DOJ evidence first. Separate it from the high strangeness speculation like Fortnite. Label them clearly.
And finally, the narrative arc.
Consolidate that political timeline. Group the Trump and Epstein history chronologically, 2005 to 2020, and contrast it immediately with the panic of the elites. Make the cause and effect undeniable.
This is a heavy topic, and the source material is clearly the result of a lot of digging. But with these structural changes, it won't just be a collection of shocking facts. It'll be a persuasive, compelling investigation that might actually change some minds.
It really could.
We'd love to see you apply these changes. Resubmit the work once you've restructured the flow, and let's see how much harder it hits. Thanks for listening to The Critique.